Let me ask you something unsettling. Have you ever apologized just to stop an argument, even though you knew you were right? If that struck a nerve, this video may change the way you see every relationship you've ever had. This isn't just psychology, it's the invisible prison millions live inside. Without knowing it, gaslighting is more than a buzzword. It's a system, a weapon, a way to rewrite your reality so slowly you start to rewrite it yourself. By the end of this video, you'll know how to spot the exact phrases, patterns, and emotional traps gaslighters use, not just in relationships, but in families, workplaces, even society itself. You'll start to hear it in conversations, feel it in your past, and maybe finally stop doubting yourself, because you're not too sensitive, you're not crazy, and you're definitely not alone. This is Psyche Alchemy, where we break down the subtle manipulation they never wanted you to name. If you're one of the minds that questions everything, welcome to the tribe. Let's begin with something terrifyingly common. The moment you start defending your sanity instead of your truth. It usually starts with something small. A question. A raised eyebrow. A casual, "Are you sure that's what happened?" And just like that, you hesitate. You were so sure a second ago. You remember the words, you felt the tone. But now, you're not certain. And maybe you misunderstood. Maybe you're overthinking. Maybe you really are the problem. That moment, that pause, that tiny crack in your confidence, that's the seed. And if they're good at this, if they've done it before, they'll water that seed just right. You always do this. Why would I lie to you? God, you're being so sensitive. That never happened. And suddenly you're not just doubting the argument, you're doubting your memory, your emotions, your instincts, your reality. This is what I call the doubt loop. You feel something. They deny it, you push back. They twist it. You try to clarify. They escalate. And by the end, you're apologizing for being confused about the very thing they made confusing. You stop trusting yourself. And when you can't trust yourself, guess who you start trusting instead? Them. Not because they're right, but because they're louder, calmer, more certain, and you're exhausted. And that's the trick. Gaslighters don't win by being correct. They win by wearing you down. And here's the dark part. That you start gaslighting yourself. You start saying things like, maybe I overreacted. Maybe I'm too emotional. Maybe it really is my fault. You begin to pre-approve their lies before they even speak. And if you've ever done that, even once, ask yourself, where did you learn to ignore your own truth? Because that's the first step in control, making you believe your feelings are evidence of your flaws. But what if they're not? What if your confusion is a response to manipulation? What if your sensitivity is actually your inner intelligence trying to scream through the noise? Now, we'll talk about why gaslighters target the kind, the smart, and the emotionally aware, and why your strengths are the exact things they need to silence. Have you ever wondered why it's always you, the calm one, the forgiving one, the thoughtful one, who ends up questioning everything in the end? It's not a coincidence. Gaslighters don't waste their time on people who won't care. They go after the people who do. The empathetic, the emotionally intelligent. The ones who will sit up at night wondering if they hurt someone. The ones who apologize first, even when they're shaking inside. Because those people, they'll try to understand, they'll try to fix it. They'll stay. And staying is all a gaslighter needs. See, this is the part they don't teach you in school. Your greatest strengths, compassion, emotional awareness, sensitivity, can be used against you. If you're the type who always sees both sides, they'll make you believe their side is the only one that matters. If you're the type who avoids conflict, they'll train you to avoid your own boundaries, just to keep the peace. And if you're the type who wants love to feel safe, they'll redefine love so that it only feels safe when you agree with them. This is how the kind-hearted become prisoners, not because they're weak, but because they keep giving the benefit of the doubt to people who benefit from their doubt. And here's the really cruel part. The smarter you are, the deeper it cuts. Because gaslighting isn't about logic, it's about emotion. You can know something's wrong and still believe it's your fault. That's how deeply this thing can dig into your identity. But if you've been feeling this, if you've been walking on eggshells in silence, you're not broken, you're being broken down. Now, we'll talk about the next phase, the point where you stop arguing with them and start fighting with yourself. That's where the real damage happens, and we need to talk about it. At some point, the arguments stop, not because the truth was found, but because you stop speaking up. You still feel the discomfort, the pain, the anxiety. But instead of confronting them, you confront yourself. Maybe I shouldn't bring this up. They'll just say I'm being dramatic again. What if I'm wrong? What if I really did misunderstand? You start rehearsing the conversation in your head before it happens. You edit your words. You shrink your tone. You silence your gut. And worst of all, you start to believe that peace means staying quiet. That's how gaslighting evolves. It turns confrontation into self-monitoring. You become the warden of your own emotional prison. You stop checking whether they're treating you well and start checking whether you're making them upset. You don't ask, why do they keep hurting me? You ask, why am I so sensitive? And in doing so, you become your own manipulator. You second-guess your feelings. You justify the inexcusable. You rewrite reality just to survive it. This is the moment where gaslighting wins, because they no longer have to convince you that you're wrong. You do that part for them. You've internalized the voice that once accused you. Now, it sounds like your own. But let me tell you something no gaslighter wants you to hear. That voice, it's not yours. It was installed, it was practiced, it was conditioned, and it can be removed. In the next chapter, we're going to break down the specific phrases and tactics gaslighters use to create this collapse. You'll start to see them in conversations, in your past, maybe even in someone around you right now. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. By now, you've probably realized something chilling. Gaslighting isn't just emotional, it's linguistic warfare. It's built on carefully chosen words, weaponized tone, and the kind of subtle phrases that make you question your sanity, while sounding completely reasonable. Let me show you some of the most common tactics. Listen closely, because you've probably heard them before. You're remembering it wrong. They don't argue the issue, they argue your memory. The goal, if they can rewrite the past, they can control the present. I never said that. They deny the obvious, twist the facts, or change their story so subtly, it makes you wonder if you're imagining things. You're too sensitive. Translation: your feelings are a problem. You're overreacting. It's not what they said, it's how you felt that's suddenly wrong. I was just joking. They insult you, then hide behind a smile. When you react, they accuse you of not being able to take a joke. Suddenly, your pain becomes their punchline. You're the only one who thinks that. They isolate you, make you feel like your truth is absurd. The goal is to trap you in silence, because now, speaking up feels like social suicide. But here's the thing. None of these phrases are outright abusive on their own. That's what makes them so dangerous. They're delivered in everyday conversations. They sound logical. They sound calm. And if you try to call them out, you're the one with the issue. But that's how gaslighting works. It doesn't explode. It erodes. It makes you the unreliable narrator of your own life. And if you've been hearing those words often, it's not just communication, it's control. Now we're going to talk about how to escape it, how to start trusting your voice again, how to rebuild the version of you that existed before they convinced you it wasn't real. This next part isn't about psychology, it's about power. Let's finish this. There comes a moment in every gaslit life when you don't just want clarity. You need it. Not from them. Not from an apology you'll never get. But from yourself. And that's where the escape begins. Not in confrontation, but in recognition, because once you realize it wasn't just a joke, once you notice that you're the one always apologizing, once you name the manipulation for what it is, it loses power. See, gaslighting thrives in silence, in confusion, in isolation. But clarity is a rebellion. So how do you begin to break free? You stop explaining your pain to people committed to misunderstanding it. You stop negotiating your boundaries like they're up for debate. And you stop shrinking your truth to protect someone else's ego. You start by writing things down. When you feel something, record it. Validate your own memory. You don't need permission to feel what you feel. You reach out to friends, to community, even to strangers who've been through it. Because gaslighting is a lie designed to make you feel alone. Connection exposes the lie, and most importantly, you believe yourself, even when they don't, especially when they don't. Because your sensitivity is not a flaw, it's your radar. Your confusion is not proof that you're wrong. It's a sign that something doesn't add up. And your voice, however shaky, is the one thing they couldn't completely take from you. You just stopped trusting it. But now you've seen the game. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So if this video made you pause, if it made you feel understood, even a little, you're not alone anymore. This is Psyche Alchemy. A space for thinkers, for feelers, for minds that refuse to be puppets. If you're still watching, I have one ask. Speak in the comments, tell your story, or just say, I see it now. Because the first step in breaking the silence is making noise. And here's your reminder for the day. You were never the crazy one. You were just surrounded by people who benefited from your confusion. But now you see clearly. And that's where power begins.